nimekuja bila kitu na sitoki bila kitu, mwanangu azaliwe na kakitu, usitoke bila kitu. Aye, kila siku naishi kama sina kitu, mwishowe miniwe na kakitu, akusitoke bila kitu.
I wanna be home with you, I'm putting all my hope in you, and I could be anywhere in the world, but home is where I'm with you. I wanna be home with you, I'm putting all my hope in you, and I could be anywhere in the world, but home is where I'm with you. Baby, usijali.
Thank you. All right. Apologies to TikTok family. Hopefully you can see me now. I don't know why, but today we're doing terrible with camera setup. I won't call her out, but she knows herself. All right, guys, thank you again for tuning in. Let's get started. Send in your questions. There's no such thing as a dumb, stupid, or wrong question. No judgment. The point of this session, as with every week, is to simply share our experiences the best we can that may inform some of the situations you're dealing with in your land ownership or land buying, property investment journeys. We've been doing this for 11 and a half years, so we know a thing or two about how to do it safely and do it well. As I mentioned before, my name is Solomon Wangwe. I am the Managing Director, founder of Goshen Acquisitions Limited, as well as its wholly owned subsidiary, Grand Acres Limited, the best land sellers, property sellers in Kenya, hands down. Anyone tells you otherwise, either they don't know what they're talking about or they are straight up lying. That's our position, and we're not going to change it. So there you go. Hi, Washu. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we see you. You're demanding an additional 7 minutes. Pewa, Washu. Anything for you, Washu. And apologies for starting late. I see you all tuning in on TikTok and Facebook. Thank you all. So I'll just get started in the interest of time. We're going to be going for a straight 1 hour. Richard Ololo, I see you. Thank you for your question, which is, how much is the deposit required when buying land? Awesome question, Richard. The Law Society of Kenya's Conditions of Sale, which is the group of laws and policies that are required as a basic minimum or guideline for property transactions in Kenya, states that the minimum required deposit payment for a legally binding property transaction, sale purchase transaction, is 10% of the sale price. Minimum 10%. Pretty straightforward and not unreasonable. I will add a caveat to that. Over and above the 10%, it can be whatever the two parties agree to do in writing on the sale agreement. Could be 20%, 30, 40, 50. I've seen some as high as 70%. It just depends on what both parties agree to do. But bare minimum for that contract, that sale agreement, to be considered legally binding because it's compliant with the Law Society of Kenya's Conditions of Sale, is 10%. Happy investing to you, Richard. Okay, next question. Oh, you have another one. And do you have any financing options? Same question from Richard. We do have some financing as seller financing. I presume that's what you're referring to, Richard. Do we seller finance? Seller financing is a term for the seller offering payment plans so that they are in effect acting as a banker or financier, because they are financing the transaction for you, allowing you to pay in installments or over time, as opposed to the typical 90-day period or less or more, depending on what you put in the sale agreement. Yes, we do on a case-by-case basis. It's not something we advertise on a blanket basis whenever we're releasing a product to the market. So if you like something that we have, Richard, please reach out, tell us what you think makes sense for you, and we will be more than happy to see if we can accommodate that. Obviously, our intention, our goal, our heart, our mission, our drive is to serve our customers, which is the Kenyan investor or the foreign investor looking to buy in Kenya. And to whatever extent we can accommodate that and serve and make that a pleasant and meaningful and valuable experience for you, we will do. So just reach out, tell us what sort of works for you, and we'll be happy to tell you whether or not we can accommodate that. So there you go. Thank you for that awesome question, Richard. Washu says, please provide a quick update for the Goshen family on Olkekun, Acacia Cove, Vasha, Imbuko. Okay, let me start with Olkekun. If you are a Goshen Acquisitions customer or Grand Acres, you will be familiar with the names that Washu has just typed. So she's asking about our Olkekun project, which is in Naivasha, right opposite the new Safari Center complex, where there's a beautiful, beautiful art cafe market, art cafe restaurant, I believe a Galito's restaurant, and Naiva supermarket. If you're watching me on Facebook or any other platform aside from Instagram, you should see the video playing in the back of me taking Washu and Jojo, two of our most favorite customers, to their property on Olkekun, right on the highway, Nakuru-Naivasha highway, directly opposite. You can't miss it. Beautiful 7-acre compound, professionally master planned by one of the best architectural firms on the planet, DLR. Big shout out to Chris Osore, the architect and principal of DLR's Kenya and East Africa office. They did an amazing job with that master plan, duly approved by Nakuru County as being compliant with their land use policies for that area. These are 50 by 100 acre, 50 by 100 foot plots, which is an eighth of an acre. Mixed use development, meaning specifically that the road front is commercial and everything else in the back is residential at high density and medium density. High density means you can put up ground plus 3 floors in apartments, and medium density means it has to be a single residence, single dwelling, maisonette on the plot of land. So where are we on Olkekun? We did a soft launch groundbreaking with a contractor there a few months ago. We are now in the final stages of getting building permits from Nakuru County. We've had some slight delays there because Nakuru County has just changed the procedure that one must use to do that. Now they're doing it on an online portal as opposed to handing in physical documents, much like happens in Nairobi County, as well as recently now Kajiado County. So that's what's going on, and we're super excited about getting the gatehouse built ASAP, perimeter fence, topographic survey is done, title deeds are ready, as you already know, Ashu. So that's where we're at. We're also getting the hydrological survey done for the borehole. A bit of great news is that the county has now piped water right in front of our property. Between our fence and the highway, there's municipal water available, which is excellent for us. Even if we weren't drilling a borehole, there's immediate water available to facilitate the construction work that is about to be done. Okay. On what was the other one? Acacia Cove. Same status on Acacia Cove actually, and we look forward to having our on-site cameras installed. I know someone from our Hadi group will want to know that. We will be installing on-site cameras so that those of you who are our customers can log on at your discretion on your own time and just take a peep at what's going on the site. Hopefully you catch Mount Kenya at sunrise or at sunset. Enjoy the panoramic views or maybe you might notice what's going on site as the contractors go on with their work. Same situation, gatehouse, and the first phase of value addition, including the final beacons, the branded beacons, which have been custom designed for Acacia Cove, obviously, because these are half acres, not the typical 1 or 5 acre blocks we do, for example, in Imbuko. And these will be the exact same sort of beacons we do at Lake Elementaita, which is the third update for you. Lake Elementaita, we just received the county's approval of our master plan, also done by DLR, amazing residential compound of 23 lots, 23 plots, that is, quarter acre each, right? Right on the lakefront. We have 99 meters of water frontage on Lake Elementaita. Stunning, stunning site. I wish we didn't have to sell it. I would keep that on my own. But we're doing this to serve our customers, and the business needs to do its thing. And again, images playing in the background. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can see that these are the most recent shots, drone shots we got on site a few months ago. KWS has fenced off the water because it's now part of the national park managed by KWS, or I should say, sorry, Sambu Conservancy as opposed to a national park. The lake itself is managed by KWS. It's a government property. No one owns any of our Great Lakes, obviously. These are government entity properties. And you can see yours truly, Mr. George Kagwe, our head of digital on site, acting a fool as usual on site, just enjoying the scenery there, right next to Surville Resort. And I'm super excited. It's taken us a long time to get the county approvals, which I know, Washu, you didn't know, but we have those now. So we're waiting to attend the Land Control Board hearing and obtain the new title deeds, subdivided title deeds, and then we can get on with our perimeter fence and such and such. Imbuko, nothing to update in Imbuko, Washu, as you know. You purchased a giant parcel of land with your lovely sisters, friends out there in the diaspora with you, and your land is safe and sound, your beacons are still in place, and we continue to do our thing in Imbuko. So I hope I've answered all your questions, Washu. If there's something else you want me to address, please let me know. And in case you're curious about what Washu is asking about, please go to our website, www.grandacres.co.ke, and you'll be able to take a full view of all our available inventory, what we have available on offer for you to consider purchasing. Do us the honor of joining one of our neighborhoods and becoming a member of the Grand Acres and Goshen Acquisitions family, or as we like to call here internally, the Greater Gains community. Awesome. Next question. I see there's a question here from Okumu Junior 28 from TikTok. Do you have lands in Kisumu or looking to have any in the near future? Okumu Junior, thank you for your question. Currently, we do not have anything in Kisumu, but we have actually scouted for land out there before and continue to do so as opportunity presents. Most recently, I looked at land in Bondo, a place called Sakwa. A friend, former high school mate, invited me to their home to take a look at what was available there. Stunning. I was ashamed that I hadn't been there before. I'm 45 years old, never been to Bondo until this last trip. If you've never been to the lakeside, please be kind to yourself. Do yourself a favor. Jump on a bus, take a matatu. If you're like me and you don't like long trips, buy a plane ticket. They're very affordable on KQ. Fly directly from Nairobi to Kisumu in less than an hour, and and take a look at what's going on there. Stunning, stunning scenery, beautiful water, frontage properties. Unfortunately, we haven't found anything that works yet, primarily on the documentation side. As it turns out, Kisumu's land registry is quite messy. It's actually reputed, sadly to say, as being one of the most corrupt. A lot of fraud happens in Kisumu. It's just a fact. So we're taking our time. We're taking our time to find the right thing and make sure that we don't have problems ourselves, or that we do not put any of our valuable customers into any problems as far as their land ownership is concerned. So stay tuned. Should we find something, you will hear about it, no doubt. So Okumu Junior 28 from TikTok, you have a second question, which is, do you allow financing for the lands you sell? I believe I already answered that. That was the first question I answered. Tell us what you think makes sense for you, and we'll see if we can accommodate it. Maclean Kaizen on TikTok. Thank you for watching, Maclean. Is it Maclean or Macline? Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that right. But your question is, if I want to buy a property, would you represent me? If yes, at what cost? Maclean, no, we would not represent you. Why? Because we are not lawyers. We're not advocates of the High Court of Kenya. Advocates are the right professional, I should say, to assist you with what you're asking, to represent you in property transactions. Neither are we agents or brokers. We don't sell anyone's property. We only sell what we own ourselves. So if we don't own it, you'll never hear about it from us. What we do on our social media platforms and channels and outlets is simply educate members of the public on how to safely go about buying property, because this is what we do on a daily basis. We've had lots of experience doing it, and we know how to do it right. So that's a context in which we're having this conversation, just to be helpful in any way that we can and share information that would hopefully make your own land ownership, land buying journey easier, safer, and better. Okay, so that's the best answer I can give you, Maclean. Find yourself a licensed advocate of the High Court of Kenya, preferably one who specializes in land transactions, property transactions, or in other words, conveyancing. That's what they call it in that profession. And they will tell you exactly how much they would charge you, depending on the value of the transaction. All success to you. And if you want to do it safely, please go to our website, www.grandacres.co.ke. Download for yourself a free copy of the Grand Acres checklist, the 9 steps to safe land buying in Kenya, which will tell you how to identify a good advocate to help you, as well as all the other necessary steps you will have to take to own your land safely and sleep peacefully knowing that you have unimpeachable ownership documents. Absolutely free. So there you go. Mbogzali, is that right? Mbogzati on TikTok. Thank you for tuning in, Mbogzati. What's the most important document in the process of buying land? Mbogzati, I think you have not downloaded our free checklist. I don't know why you haven't. Please be kind to yourself. Go to our website, www.grandacres.co.ke. Find the tab that says checklist, download it. It'll tell you exactly what documents are most important. They will be included usually in your sale agreement as requirements for the seller to provide you if you do a proper sale agreement, or if you do it the Grand Acres way. And these will include original title deed, typically a mutation form, a certified copy of the mutation form, as well as a certified copy of the registry index map, duly updated to include the property that you have the title to. The one that is never included there in the completion documents, but we recommend as the most important document in any land transaction is a green card. The green card sits in a file locked in an office of the Ministry of Lands Registry relevant to that area for that particular property. And it contains a history of ownership from whenever that file was created, even as far back as 1963, some even older, especially for urban municipal zones like Nairobi, CBD, and so on. That document is the single most important document in a land transaction, in my humble opinion, in my qualified view. And I say this having dealt with innumerable numbers of land ownership documents, even when we're doing due diligence. That document, the green card, is the most consequential one. It is the one that gives birth to a title deed. So, as I've said before, a good way to assess the importance of a green card versus a title deed is akin to a birth certificate versus a national ID card. You cannot get a national ID card in this republic unless you have a birth certificate which records your beginnings, the day that you entered this planet within the boundaries of Kenya. It's recorded, and a birth certificate is issued by the registrar of persons. Okay, that is the mother document on which you, as a human being in Kenya, receive every other document that you will require for life, including the national ID card, based on which you get driver's licenses, passports, so on and so forth. Without a birth certificate, you can't get any of the others because you're deemed to be an alien, literally. That's the actual term they would use. You are alien. You do not belong. You are illegal. In exactly the same way I have described the difference between a birth certificate and a national ID card, is a difference between a green card and a title deed. Without the green card first, which is the birth certificate of the land or the file, there can be no title deed. So if I show you a title deed and in the process of your due diligence, you are unable to confirm the existence of a green card to that title, then you need to ask very serious and straightforward questions or walk away. But probably even just run away. It's not worth it. You could be dealing with completely thin air. The green card is the most important document in a land buying, land transaction, hands down, bar none. Anyone says different, they don't know what they're talking about. Hope I've answered your question. Get yourself the Grand Acres checklist, please. It's absolutely free. Matrud on TikTok. Your question is, and thank you, Matrud, for joining today on TikTok. Your question is, please talk about Nairobi satellite cities. Where do you recommend someone to invest? I recommend for someone to invest anywhere that makes sense for their goal for investing, which is step number 1 on the Grand Acres checklist. Identify your goal, define your goal, know what your goal is. Why are you looking to invest? For what reason are you investing in land? Is it to live in? Is it to develop property on that you rent? Is it to farm on? Is it just to hold as a land bank for long term, as a saving strategy? You need to be clear about that. Whichever location suits that use is where I recommend you buy. Okay? And as far as Nairobi satellite cities are concerned, any of those work perfectly well. Any one of those. I will tell you I have a preference, or I should say I am clear about what zones I would not invest in. Strictly speaking, I do not like Kitengela. Why? Because Kitengela was the first of Nairobi's satellite cities or towns to sort of sprout and begin to manifest and develop. It happened very quickly, and for that reason, the authorities were caught by surprise, which means there's absolutely no utilities infrastructure that is suitable for residential purposes, for industrial purposes, and all the other sorts of uses you are finding Kitengela, you will find chicken farms next to homes, next to schools, next to other businesses, next to factories. I mean, the use profile in Kitengela is all over the place. And for that reason, I don't like Kitengela. It's too disorganized in that sense. Places like Ngong are a little bit more organized. Maybe even Rongai is a bit more organized than Kitengela, to be honest, because Rongai is predominantly residential, aside from the commercial developments along the main arteries, which is obvious. So any one of Nairobi's satellite towns is absolutely recommended for investment. For many reasons. They are growing. They're not about to slow down. Nairobi is growing rapidly. There's not enough space, especially when you talk about affordable housing. There's just not enough land, not enough space that is affordable for that to happen in Nairobi's immediate environment. So the external areas around Nairobi are great places to invest now. Do it now. Today is the cheapest that land will probably ever be. So don't waste time. Start now wherever you can. Just make sure that where you're buying is suitable for the use that you intend and fits your specific goal. So step number one, define your goal. Download our checklist. It's absolutely free. Go to our website, www.grandacres.co.ke. Click on the checklist tab and download it for free. Send it to friends and family, loved ones who you know are also looking, and you'll be well on your way to safe land ownership in Kenya. And by the way, if you ever find yourself buying property from us, use the checklist against us. Make sure that we follow due process 100%. And if anyone is selling you land that does not check out according to that checklist, walk away or make them fix whatever is wrong. It's that simple and straightforward. It's not rocket science. Standard 5 people can follow that checklist and buy land successfully if they have the money, obviously. So do the right thing, give yourself a leg up, arm yourself with the right information. The Grand Acres checklist is a great place to start, and I wish you all success. I see we have a question here from Matt. I once saw this clause. Payment of a deposit shall be deemed as commitment to a sale. What does it mean for the purchaser? What if the purchaser pays less than 10% as deposit? Will it still apply? That's a great question, Matt. So let me start from the beginning. Payment of a deposit shall be deemed as commitment to a sale. That is true. Deposit, by definition, is an upfront payment of the first installment towards a purchase price. You're depositing a portion of the purchase price as a good faith and goodwill commitment that you are serious about purchasing this asset and that you will complete purchasing it in whatever period of time is defined in the sale agreement that contains that clause. Okay, it's very simple. That's what it means. It's your commitment to a sale. So your second part of your question is, what does it mean for the purchaser? It means that depending on how your sale agreement is drafted, if you pull out of that transaction by no fault of the seller, then you would likely lose that 10% deposit as liquidated damages to the seller. Why is that? Because the seller will have stopped marketing or has stopped making that property available to any other interested parties during the time that you have a sale agreement signed. And if you step away from the transaction, cancel the transaction, rescind the transaction, any of these terms you'll find using a sale agreement, if you withdraw from the transaction because of no fault of the seller, then you would have to surrender that 10% as compensation to the seller for the inconvenience of tying up the property for as long as they have or as short as they have without you completing the transaction. That's what it means. So you need to be clear by the time you're paying a deposit that you do intend complete the purchase. You have goodwill and good faith intent to purchase that land, and therefore you make a deposit. The Law Society of Kenya recommends, as I've answered earlier, that the minimum required percentage deposit is 10%. That is what makes your sale agreement legally binding in a court of law within the Republic of Kenya for a property transaction. If you paid any less than 10% deposit, your sale agreement could be deemed to be unprocedural or non-binding and prepared outside Law Society of Kenya's conditions of sale. And to be honest, I don't know any serious seller who would let anyone pay less than 10% as a solid commitment of a purchase. That person is a joker. Very often, in fact, at Grand Acres or Goshen acquisitions, we require a much higher percentage deposit. In most cases, we'll do 25 to 50%, right? That's how we make sure that we're tying up this property or engaging in this long, protracted process. Some of those can be up to 6 months, 3 months. The shortest we've ever done are 45 days. In either case, we are tying ourselves up. We are binding ourselves to this transaction for that period of time. We want to be sure that whoever we are engaging as sellers is serious, that they will not pull out because they have nothing to lose. In the meantime, we wasted money and time marketing this property to find them. And then we have to go back to the market again and find another buyer. Not interested. So 10% is what LSK requires as a minimum. That number can be as high as both parties agree, however, as I've already said. And yes, it will not apply if you pay less than 10%. Do it right. Hope I've answered your question, Matt. Thank you for that question. Next one. Is there a difference between reserve fee and deposit while purchasing land? What can one do if a vendor doesn't comply with a letter of demand? So the first part of your question, Matt, is there a difference between a reserve fee and deposit? Yes. Reservation fee is simply what you might put down to give the seller comfort. And this is in the context of land selling companies or entities mostly would use that language, reserve fee, reserve your plots today, make a tiny payment to show us that you're serious about the specific piece of land. And then we give you a specific period of time within which you have to sign a letter of offer or a sale agreement, which would then at that point require that you have paid up to at least 10%. Okay? So the difference between a reservation fee and the deposit, a legally binding deposit, is the quantum percentage. And that will vary from seller to seller. We, for instance, require 10% to reserve anyway. This way, if you're serious and we send you the letter of offer and the subsequent sale agreement, your deposit is covered as a bare minimum, and then you can top up as we have agreed and as is recorded on the sale agreement. So that's the main difference in terms of the context of your question, Matt. And second part of your question, if I repeat that, is what can one do if a vendor doesn't comply with a letter of demand? I don't know, Matt. You would need to provide better details. It depends on the circumstances. Why are you sending a letter of demand? On what basis are you sending a letter of demand? What is the breach that you're trying to remedy or enforce? I mean, it's very specific to the case and to the terms of your agreement, Matt. In that instance, please work with a licensed advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Ideally, you should have already engaged one by the time you're having to issue letters of demand, okay? In the event that you haven't, please do that immediately, quickly, and have them help you navigate that particular situation. Awesome question. Thank you. Karuri, Mark, Brian. Karuri, Mark, Brian, you're watching us from TikTok. Thank you for tuning in. Man, everyone's from TikTok today. Don't we have any from Instagram? Please don't make us ignore our Instagrammers. They need some love too. So Karuri Mark Brian from TikTok says mtu akiwa na 300k anaweza pata land wapi? Inategemea Karuri Mark Brian, lazima ujitafutie, fanya land scouting, ingia mtandaoni, uchunguze, ufanye utafiti ndio uweze kupata shamba lako la 300k. Inategemea kuna watu wengi wanauza mashamba za hizo bei, so fanya research. Kama unaniuliza, sisi hatuna mashamba za hiyo bei. Kama unaona kuna kitu ambayo unapenda kwa website hiyo, what do you call website in Kiswahili? Mtandao. Yes, I already used it. My Kiswahili is not too shabby. Yes, if you find anything on our mtandao Karuri Mark Brian that you like, tafadhali tupigie simu, wasiliana nasi kwa WhatsApp. Namba yetu ni 0700010001 ama kwa Kiswahili ni 0 it's still 0 in Swahili. 0700010001. How do you say triple in Kiswahili? Hakuna triple. Mara tatu. Thank you for your question, Mark. I wish you all success finding the right property for your budget, and I'm sure you can find one. Just make sure you do it right, please. Download the checklist, follow it step 1 to 9, and you'll be good. Our TikTok phone here is on less than 20% battery. Just for my people back here behind the scenes. Excalibur 1 from Instagram. Thank you for watching, Excalibur. Grand Acres, kuna malipo ya pole pole. Inategemea, tujulishe unavyotaka, alafu tutakuambia kama tutaweza kuaccommodate hiyo mpango yako ya kulipa pole pole. Tungependa kukukaribisha sana, kama itawezekana, why not? Hatuwezi kataa. So let us know. We'll be happy to engage. Richard Otolo. Hey, Richard is back. Is a green card accessible to the general public? Would it be wise for the land registry to host it online? I'm guessing it is not. Well, it is accessible to the extent that you follow the proper channels. Usually you will need to make a formal request to the registrar, to the relevant registrar, that you require a certified copy of the green card to the specific property. You would have to include a certified copy of the title deed to which you are asking a green card for, as well as your identification documents, whether it's you as an individual or you as a company. I will tell you from experience, it's a lot easier, a million times easier, if you have your advocates do it for you. Most individuals, most people in fact, have no clue that green cards exist and that they are the most important document. They are the mother of every other document related to a file for any single property. In terms of title deeds, history of ownership, any encumbrances like loans, fraud cases, succession issues, whatever the case may be. So when an individual shows up asking about a green card, it usually raises red flags at the registry. And we have found that when we have our licensed advocate engage formally, writing the letters as they are typically used to doing, it's a lot smoother, it's a lot more efficient, and the registrar can respond accordingly to their fellow professional. Okay? Otherwise, it's kept under lock and key. As you can imagine, because it is a single source of truth for the birth of a file, a land file. Need to straighten that up. land file as well as history of ownership. It is a very protected document. You cannot access it yourself. The best you can hope to do is obtain a certified copy of it as issued and stamped by the relevant registry after you make a formal application and pay the required fee and obtain the receipts, blah, blah, blah. Okay, no shortcuts. Don't pay some clerk some on the side without receipts to get it. Absolute means nothing, absolutely worthless. I would not trust such a document. Follow the due process. Would it be wise for the land registry to host it online? Obviously not. At least not yet. They haven't figured out to do that safely yet. But I'm sure a day is coming when the complete digitization of land ownership registry would facilitate that in a safe manner. So we hope and pray it comes sooner rather than later. Thank you for that question, Richard Otolo. Is it Otolo or yeah, Otolo? It's now 9:47 p.m. We have 20 minutes remaining according to Washu's clock. So send your questions in, guys. Let's get as many of them answered as possible. Abdul Karim Mohammed, hello, sir. You're watching us from Facebook. Thank you for tuning in. Your question is, how safe is buying a plot on sublease? Well, I would say, Abdul Karim, it would depend on how tight your documents are. In terms of how safe, would depend on how tight, how strongly worded, drafted your agreements are. So do it right. Don't try and cut corners, save costs here and there, and try and navigate this on your own. Identify a licensed advocate who deals with conveyancing transactions on a daily basis, because they know what to look out for. They can hold your hand, guide you appropriately, put in place all the necessary protections you may need, and they will help you lock that down properly. Best answer I can give you, honestly, Abdul Karim, depends on how well your documents are prepared. So all the best to you. Washu is back, and Washu says, what's a satellite town? So satellite town is the lay term used to describe settlement areas outside the main city. In our case, it's Nairobi. Nairobi town, Nairobi CBD, the capital city of Kenya, the hub of East Africa. Any towns outside of Nairobi, but around Nairobi, are generally referred to as satellite towns or satellite cities, if you will. Places like Thika, places like Ruaka, places like Kikuyu, places like Ngong, Rongai, Kimuka, Kiserian, Kitengela, Isinya. What else can I think of? Machakos. Machakos technically is its own city, but nevertheless considered part of Nairobi metropolitan zone. Syokimau, Athi River, Lukenya, is what people generally refer to as satellite towns, because they are outside the main city, but around and close enough that they are feeding off of the urban sprawl and the expansion of settlement that is happening in the main city. Thanks, Washu. Margaret Mbai, you're watching us from YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. As a follow-up to your answer regarding the green card, why is it not given out together with the title for the owner to keep, since it seems to be more important than the title? Well, First of all, there's only a single copy of a green card, so they can't be giving them out. And they do make available certified copies, but you have to request for one. It's not something they will do automatically. You have to formally request for one and pay the required fee, and they will provide you a certified copy of the green card. So that is why it's not given out together with the title. Also because unless the title deed is being defaced because of a subdivision or a combination with another property or any such other type of activity, if I hold a title to a property today, it has a green card under lock and key. Now that title deed I can transfer to you as a buyer, as we typically do as Grand Acres, without subdividing. It's already been subdivided. It's a 1 acre plot. It's a half acre plot. It's a 50 by 100, whatever size it is. We transfer it to you exactly as is. The ownership changes on the title. And the same thing is done on the green card, but it's the same single green card. They don't create a new green card for the new owner. It's the same single green card, which is why I stated that it is a single source of truth for the history of that particular title deed from whenever the file was created, no matter how far back it goes. So a typical green card will have the date that the file was created, the date that the title deed linked to it was issued, and to whom it was registered to. It will also contain as another entry the name of the second owner. If it changed from Grand Acres to you, Margaret, it would show that the first owner was Grand Acres because they created a new title deed from a subdivision on such and such a date. The file was created on this date. Title was registered on this date. A year later, on this particular date, the transfer was effected from Grand Acres to Margaret Mbai, so on and so forth, for the life of that file until it is perhaps combined to another property or subdivided further. Then they will create a new green card for the new subdivisions, so on and so forth. I hope that makes sense. So that green card will only be a single copy for as long as that property is transferred from one owner to another without changes made to it physically. And so for that reason, it's not something they can give you. It's the single source of reference. In fact, when you do a search on a property, what they typically do is they go to the green card, look what is written on the green card, and tell you on your search the latest entry on the green card. Which is why we always recommend, as part of your due diligence, as we have stated in our Grand Acres checklist, 9 steps to safe land buying in Kenya, which you can download for free on our website, that after you do a search, get your licensed advocate to obtain you a certified copy of the green card, because that will give you further history on that file or that title deed up to the day it was created. And those are details that will not be shown on your search. So I hope that gives you context, Margaret, as to why they would not issue you the green card with your title. It is retained at the registry. It is what they reference to confirm ownership, and any other detail that has been done procedurally or formally on that title. Awesome. I see that you understand. Thank you for that question. Okay. Next question, Stan MD. What would you advise someone to do if a seller is not reachable after the completion of the sale, yet the registrars supposedly need the seller? Because of some issue that's transpired after an area moved from one land registry to another. Wow, that's a great question, Stan. It rarely happens, but it does happen. So this is one of the main reasons that some advocates, usually the best ones, will insist that the final balance payment for a property be held in escrow and not be released to the seller until the registration of that title, the transfer, is effected. and completed, precisely because of issues like these. If you've paid the seller completely, fine, they sign the transfer form, they give you land control board consent letters, the original title, and every other completion document necessary to effect a transfer, but the seller gets, or the buyer gets stuck, then it becomes a problem, particularly if the seller does not have the decency to remain available to facilitate the transfer or the registration of the transfer to you. Okay, you just have to do whatever you can to trace that person, no matter what it takes, because you've paid money, right? You have a title, you have transfer forms, you have land control board consents if it was an agricultural piece of land, but you can't effect the transfer because the registry has moved from one area to another. It's understandable why the registrar might want to see the seller to make sure that no foul play or monkey business is being perpetrated in the process of the transfer, because documents are moved around, some files can get misplaced, others get lost, a lot of fishy things happen in that instance. So understandably, I can see why the registrar might insist that they need to see the seller before they effect the transfer. You just have to find them. So my advice is, if you're dealing with a property that's in a registry that your licensed advocate might feel something like this could happen, because usually they have a feel for each registry and what typically happens there, have your final balance payment held in escrow. Don't release it to the seller, because this is how you ensure the seller is motivated to facilitate the transfer quickly, because otherwise they don't get money. Okay, this is another reason it's so important that you pick the right lawyers to work with. Conveyancing lawyers will usually be aware of these issues and put protections in your sale agreement to prevent situations like these. If you try and navigate that on your own, you're going to leave so many loopholes that could come back and bite you and leave you super exposed. So that's my recommendation. Stan, you have no choice but to find the seller, even if it means hiring private investigators. Presumably you've parted with money. The completion of the sale is done. The registrar needs the seller there. You have no choice. Thank you for that question. Norman Munge. Hi, Norman, you're watching us on YouTube. Thank you. Your question is, how can one identify an area with a higher potential increase in market valuation before committing to purchasing in a particular area, i.e., if you're looking for investment purposes? Well, there's many different sort of indicators to look out for, Norman, including the predominant trend in the neighborhood. You can tell when a place is growing. Population size increases, there's more traffic jams on the roads, there's a mjengo on every empty plot available. That tells you that the place is growing, it's being developed rapidly. There's a lot of transactions happening. That's an obvious way to tell. So you want to get in before the available lots for purchase are gone, because the more developed the place gets, the more valuable the parcels of land get, so on and so forth. Another way to sort of read the situation, if it's not yet quite as busy as I have just described, is its proximity to other rapidly growing zones. Hence the term satellite towns. The reason satellite towns are called that and mentioned a lot is because in the context of Nairobi, they are growing rapidly because Nairobi is running out of affordable space or space at all. And therefore, it makes sense that the zones immediately next to, particularly those that are located on major transport arteries, will experience big growth at some point in the near future. So it's good to make a bet on some of these places. I remember years ago, a dear friend of mine asked me to accompany him to a place called Malaa. Malaa is on Kangundo Road, basically right next to Machakos. Kangundo, Machakos, it's really far. It felt far. This was 5-6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And he asked me to go with him to look at a piece of land that a Sako was selling, just to give him my thoughts. And as far as the place was, I could see how it was going to grow because it was right along this major Kangundo Road, which was just about to get connected to the Greater Eastern Bypass or the Eastern Bypass at Kamulu, Joska, and all the madness that was happening at Kamulu, Joska area at the time. It was obvious to see how that area could potentially benefit from the urban sprawl. The urban sprawl is what we call it, where development sort of crawls into places that were not intended for that use, or there is no infrastructure there to tell you it is obviously good for that use. So these are some of the ways you can use to sort of read the future. And as with all investment strategies, there's an element of risk that it may not appreciate as fast as you thought because maybe development took longer to get there, or something major happened that changed the trajectory of development, like the government coming up with a new project that diverts traffic, resources for infrastructure, makes another place more suitable, more desirable for the time being. Those are all risks you have to live with and be okay with. I take comfort, however, in the fact that since 1963, the value of land in Kenya in general has always been on an upward trajectory, has never plummeted to the point where people lose value. You have cyclical downturns, particularly in heavily developed areas like Nairobi, where you have oversupply of a particular product like high-end apartments, commercial space, blah, blah, blah. And then the land value goes down or the unit prices go down temporarily, but they always pick up and keep going higher and higher. And this is true. Do your research. Don't just take my word for it. Look at the data. In general, in Kenya, land prices have always been on an upward trajectory. So the more pertinent question for us is, how long will I have to wait for the value to achieve a certain threshold? That's an assessment you have to make for yourself. But do it now, because today is the cheapest it's ever going to be. All the best to you. Okay, we have time for one more. Tidal Wave from TikTok. Kindly talk about combination of properties. Tidal Wave from TikTok, thank you for your question. Thank you for tuning in. Combination of properties is sometimes referred to as amalgamation, which means you are joining two or more properties together to make one larger one. So it is the opposite of subdivision in essence. Subdivision means you're dividing land into smaller units and producing multiple smaller unit titles out of one larger one, or the mother parcel is the term that is used. Combination is the opposite of that, which is combining these many properties, two or more, into one larger one. And that's it. Not complicated. Time for one more. We have time for one more. Okay. At Morris Coffee from TikTok. Hello, sir. You once helped me how to recover my land 3 years ago from a land grabber. God bless you. Wow. Morris Coffee. Thank you for saying that. I do not recall our interaction. Nevertheless, I am happy you were able to recover your land 3 years ago. Man, God bless you for that. Thank you for that encouraging remark. And may you never need to recover land ever again. Growth only. I saw a comment from Washu. What was that?
That's an answer to the question people asking where to buy land to get appreciation.
Okay. So can I read Washu's comment?
Yes.
Thanks, Georgie. Washu Nidangu says, all Goshen land, especially Nanyuki, Imbuko, the point at which you buy matters. Imbuko, we bought at 400K per acre. Today, the acre is over 1M. Acacia Cove, Nanyuki, we bought, man, that was these guys, man. Washu, you got such a, can I get the land back, please? Can I buy it back from you for the 1.5M you paid? Today, the same land, yes, we're actually selling at 5.49. Yes. Thank you, Washu. Washu knows because she's a buyer. She's bought. She's not talking about theory, and we always appreciate feedback from our customers because they're speaking from experience. And I promise you, we did not pay Washu to say that. Washu is not the sort of person you do that type of thing with. So thank you for saying that, Washu. We really appreciate you and honor you. Thank you for trusting us with your land investment journey. We look forward to more. Yeah, man, that's awesome. Thank you for that session, guys. I know Washu asked for 7 extra minutes. We have one more. Can we cover one last question just to honor Washu's request? Kagwiria Kimathi, I am a victim of land grabbing. The land grabbers in cahoots with the land registrar made the original green card disappear and created a new false one. Is there any way to get ownership documents? I'm so sorry to hear that, Kagwiria Kimathi. It's rare, but it does happen. And I'm so sorry you've had to deal with that. That can be devastating, particularly when you've invested your hard-earned savings, money, resources into this exercise. I mean, the best advice I would give you, Kagwiria, is first of all, get yourself a bulldog of an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, a strong lawyer who understands conveyancing and land transactions to represent your interests, okay? Second thing I would do with their help is go and register a statement with the DCI, Directorate of Criminal Investigations, and let them do their investigations if they haven't done that yet. Secondly, have your lawyer file a motion in court to attempt to have the judiciary address this matter and right the wrong that you have suffered. And hopefully, if there are indeed land grabbers in cahoots with registrars, they are held to account. I know it does happen. It can be long, tiring, and expensive. I have a friend who's going through this at the coast. My heart goes out to him every time I hear that the court case has been postponed for another 3 months, 6 months, a year. It's been in court for, gosh, it's like 14 years now, but he's almost there. And when it is determined that a land registrar abused their access to these documents to perpetrate fraud in cahoots with others, they are held to account. So don't give up. I wish you all success, and may you recover what is due to you. Thank you all for making time. It's now 8 minutes past 8. Because we respect your time as well as ours, I will say adios, have a blessed night, and I look forward to next week's session. Happy investing to you all. Cheers.
Pretty boy Rasta live and direct. Shout out to all the loyal Wakurugenzi. With me is none other than the land connoisseur himself, Manati Bila Grady, Pedi wa Mashake. Shamba ya Karen unaiangalia kwa nini? Una window shop pizza na pesa ya madondo? Surely. Surely, surely, surely.
Let it stop black. For the Twitter black.